Hi Year 9. Today you're going to do some work on a new topic which is called energy. It is a topic that you have looked at before, so this will be recapping some stuff from Key Stage 3. Before I get started, just make sure that you've got somewhere to work and you've got your exercise book and a pen. If you haven't got those, go and get them, press pause, then come back and write the date and title. So first of all, I'd like you to think about the following questions. Is heat energy? Is water energy? And is gravity energy? Think about those words, think about what you know about those words, and can you say yes or no to each? Now what I'd like you to do is just to write down and complete the following sentence as you think it could go. Now it doesn't matter if you don't know what it is, but have a go. I think energy is. What do you think that energy actually is? Pause the video, write your sentence, and then press play when you're done. So the definition of energy is the ability of something to do work. Now it's a definition that you need to learn, so make sure you've got that written down. Pause the video and write it in your exercise book. Now when I say something, I literally mean anything, any object, anything at all. And work is when a force is applied. So when we're looking at something moving or changing in temperature or glowing, something happening to that object, it can only happen if energy is involved. So for your first task, I want you to think back to Key Stage 3 and try and think of as many forms of energy as you can and write them down in your book. Now it doesn't matter if you don't know all of the forms of energy, or if you're not sure if something is a form of energy, have a go of writing it down anyway, because science is all about making mistakes. We can always correct it. Now, just to give you a hint, there are 10 forms of energy that you need to know, and we are talking about forms or types of energy, not sources of energy. So not where the energy comes from, but what the type of energy is. So pause the video and see how many you can write down. So answers for those then. I'd like you to tick your list to see if you got them right, and if you didn't, just correct them. Doesn't matter if you make mistakes. Now make sure that you do have all 10 of these written down as a list. They can be in any order. So first of all, we could have kinetic energy. Now this is a picture of a moving car because kinetic energy is the type of energy that anything has if it's moving. Magnetic energy is next, and that one's fairly self-explanatory. Elastic potential is the energy that something has if it is stretched. Now potential means that it could do something, it has the potential to do something. So the arrow in the picture, if they let go of the string, the arrow will fly. It has the potential to move because of the stretched spring. Now this match is releasing the stored chemical energy that was inside it, and at the same time is also releasing heat. So this picture is showing us two types of energy there. Chemical energy, which is a store of energy, and heat being released. Light is a form of energy. And then we have gravitational potential. Now this is the energy that this person about to jump out of the plane has due to gravity sort of pulling on them. So they have the potential to fall because gravity is there, sort of giving it the ability to fall. Sound is a form of energy. And then we have electrical, and finally the one that most people forget, which is nuclear, which is the energy stored inside atoms. So if you haven't got all 10 written down, make sure you do pause the video and then press play when you're ready to move on. So another task, okay, what we're going to do is to try and create a mnemonic to remember the 10 energy forms, because you do need to know them for GCSE. Now a mnemonic is a sentence that helps you remember the first letter of each word in things you need to remember. So a very famous one that you might have heard before would be a mnemonic for the planets. You need to know Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which isn't technically a planet anymore, but we still count it. Now the mnemonic that you might have heard of before is my very easy method, just speeds up naming planets, and it helps us remember the first letter of each of the planets in the correct order as well. So can you think of a mnemonic to help you remember the 10 energy forms? See if you can come up with a sentence. Pause the video. So a mnemonic we could use for the types of energy: magnetic, kinetic, heat, light, gravitational potential, chemical, sound, elastic potential, electrical, and nuclear. We could use the sentence, most kids hate learning GCSE energy names. Now, it's quite useful to make sure that your mnemonic has something to do with what you're trying to remember. So both the one you can see on the screen at the minute and the one about the planets are to do with what you're trying to remember and learn, which does help make links in your brain and helps your long-term memory. Now, we can look at energy transfers. Now, this is how energy goes from one form to another. Now, if we look at the toaster, what we put into the toaster is electrical energy. And the toaster takes the electrical energy and it turns it into, or transforms the electrical energy into, heat. Now, that is the useful energy transfer going on in the toaster. We need the heat to cook the bread and turn it into toast. The candle is taking a store of energy in the form of chemical energy. Now, that chemical energy is in the wax. And when we light the candle, the wax combusts and it turns into both light and heat. Now, you probably wouldn't normally use a candle to heat up a room, but the act of burning or combusting does produce heat, and it can be useful or wasted depending on what we're using that sort of combustion for. Now, in a catapult, we would start with kinetic, which would be the action of somebody pulling the catapult back, and that then transforms or transfers into elastic potential once you have pulled the elastic back. And then once you release the elastic potential energy transfers and turns into kinetic energy, which would be the useful form. Now, you will also get some sound. That would be the whooshing sound that you hear. So that is a transformation of energy as well, from the elastic potential to the sound. I have another task for you. What I'd like you to do is to find and write down 5 examples of energy transfers around your house. Write down what the object or system is, and then write down the energy transfers in the same way that I just showed them on the previous slide. I don't want to see the same 3 again though, so no extra toasters. Pause the video and then come back when you're done. Right, next task then, I'd like you to copy and complete the table, filling in the types of energy that you can see. Pause the video and match the 10 types to the description so that you've got a really good list in your book. Okay, let's go through the answers for that one then. So first of all, the energy in magnets and electromagnets. Well, got a bit of a clue here. We've got magnets and electromagnets, so that is magnetic energy. The energy in moving objects, well, movement energy we looked at before was kinetic. Also called thermal energy. Well, anything that has therm in it, that's a prefix like we've talked about before. Therm means heat. Energy that can be seen easily. Well, what helps us be seen? It's light for that one. The stored energy in raised objects. Well, if I raise up a pen and then I let it go, it will drop because of gravity. So this one is gravitational potential energy, which I'm just going to write as GPE. The stored energy that we find in food, batteries and fuel, well, that is chemical energy. Energy that can be heard is sound. The energy in moving charges, or static electric charges, is electrical energy. Stored energy in stretched or squashed objects, well, that is the elastic potential energy. So I'm going to write elastic PE. And then finally, stored in the nuclei of atoms, that is nuclear. Okay, and if you look, that is in order. Most kids hate learning GCSE energy names. So next, I'd like you to have a think about this. Using the idea of energy transfer, what do you think the law of conservation of energy could be? Have a think about the word conservation and what could it mean in terms of energy. Pause the video and have a think, and if you want to look it up, feel free. So to conserve means to save or protect, and we can talk about nature conservation where we're looking at the environment. The law of conservation of energy is specifically talking about the fact that you cannot destroy or make energy. There is a limited amount of energy, and we can use a specific word or a subject specific word for this, which is finite. Okay, if something is finite, there is a limited amount and that you can't make or make more or get rid of any. So have a think about this. This is the definition. The law of conservation of energy states that something is never created or destroyed. It is something into other types of energy. And energy in equals energy something. Have a think about what the gaps could be. Have a go at writing it down. Pause the video and then we'll go through the answers. So the answer for this, the law of conservation of energy states that energy is never created or destroyed. It is transferred into other types of energy. Now, if you said transformed or turned into instead of transferred, that's fine. And so the energy into a system must be equal to the energy out of that system. Now, the energy might change in type, but if you add up all of the different types of energy going in and all of the energy coming out, they will equal the same amount of energy. Now, if you want to look at something that will help you remember the law of conservation of energy, have a search on YouTube for Mr. Edmonds and find his energy song. And that will help you remember the law of conservation of energy. So to finish off, I'm going to ask you some true or false questions for you to have a go at. You can answer them in your book if you like. So, first question. Water is a form of energy. True or false? The answer to that one is false. Water is not a form of energy, although it can be the system or object that transforms the energy. Sound and light are both forms of energy for question 2. Sound and light are both forms of energy. True or false? That's true. Both sound and light are in the 10 forms of energy, the 10 energy types that we need to know. Question 3. Heat energy is also known as thermic energy. True or false? That one's a bit of a trick question. It's thermal energy, although the therm is there. Thermic energy wouldn't be correct. Question 4. A candle transfers chemical energy into heat and light energy. True or false? That one is true. The chemical energy is stored in the wax, and when we combust the wax, it releases heat and light. And finally, question 5. Elastic potential energy and kinetic energy are both forms of stored energy. Is that true or false? Well, elastic potential energy is definitely a form of stored energy, but kinetic energy isn't. When you pull the elastic back, the elastic is storing the kinetic energy that you use to pull the elastic back, and then when you let it go, it releases that into kinetic energy, but kinetic energy isn't a store. The only stored types of energy would be elastic potential energy, gravitational potential energy, chemical energy, those kinds of energies. Now, the next thing I'm going to ask you to look at is stored energy and a bit more about energy transfers. But that's the end of this first part of the task. And you can turn off the video.